turn it over to Arda for a brief presentation on the highlights which were distributed earlier this week.
Yes, thank you for having me, and thank you for covering everybody in this budget process. And I want to thank you for your time that you put with joining all the committee meetings and reviewing the presentation we held, what our projections are going to be, and your feedback is very much appreciated. So for the 24-25 budget, I just want to say that I am pleased to announce that our operating budget for the 24-25 fiscal year is a commitment to our students for sure, and to our community. We have allocated roughly $87.8 million for the 24-25 academic year. I'm just going to give you a brief highlight of some of the things that are included in the budget. There are no tuition increases. This is the third consecutive year in a row that we have not hiked the tuition and fees. For 24-25 year, we are currently rating as number 23rd as far as tuition fee and fees. That's well below the medium, which means other community colleges have higher rates than we do. We are in line with Genesee and Niagara at this point. Students universally will also see a decrease in total fees. We have reduced our collection fees. We have removed the registration fees and also reduced some of the late fees. We want to make sure that that the college is affordable, and we provide students with the utmost transparency as far as tuition and fees. To address potential funding shortages, we have allocated $1.6 million from the unrestricted fund balance, making sure that we support students, services, and as well as other resources that we have. Our projected unrestricted fund balance ending in 24-25 is approximately $25.8 million, or 29.4% of our total operating expenses. This just means that we are providing a strong financial foundation for the college for the upcoming years. Our operating revenues, this includes tuition and fees, state and sponsor contributions, and other revenues. It excludes actually the fund balance usage that we take from our reserves to offset, to balance the budget. Projected revenues are at $86.2 million, slightly less than previous year, and this is due to enrollment declines. As far as enrollment impact, we are expected to see a 6% decrease in revenue for the 24-25 fiscal year. Our credit FTEs, which are matriculated and high school students, are expected to decrease approximately 6%, from 5,656.4 FTEs in 23-24 budget to 5,319.8 in the 24-25 proposed budget. So the overall FTEs, which includes not only our matriculated and high school students, but also our pathway students, which are non-credit and non-revenue. This does not impact our budget. We're going to see a slightly higher decrease from 6,936.7 FTEs to 6,022.4 FTEs, which is representing an overall of approximately 13%. And this is highly due to the discontinuation with our public Buffalo Public Schools, which impacts our total FTEs but does not, again, affect our revenue streams. State aid. There is no reduction in state aid for the college levels. However, I think it's important to note that we could risk losing $10 million if the calculation for the state aid funding changes back to per FTE. Recently, the state budget was enacted, and in there they include an additional $8 million for community college. However, that when you consider 13 community colleges, that really doesn't represent much or does a huge impact into our budget. At this point in time, SUNY is working to come up with a plan, and we don't know if that's going to impact our operating budget directly or whether that's going to be tracked as a separate grant. Sponsor contributions are going to be maintained at the current level. We have seen a slight chargeback rate increase. Operating expenses, these are all of our salaries, benefits, utilities, equipment and contractual services. Total expenses are projected to be at $87.8 million, similar to the previous budget and roughly 3% higher than the current projections. We do know that salaries and benefits make up 80% of our total expenses, with we have projected for 507 full-time position in there. We also included a 15 vacant positions, accounting for $750,000 for our vacancy control fund. Basically, the salaries and benefits, we are going to see a 3% increase over current year budget and 4%, which represent roughly $2.5 million compared to projected actual for this year. And that is strictly due to contractual increases that we have for full-time employees. Employee benefits, we've allocated 45% of salaries for employee benefits. Equipment and contractual, they are fixed costs and they represent roughly 20% of our total expenses. Within this, we have built a $1 million spending constraint to hopefully see some savings in next year. But if we don't see those savings in that $1 million constraint that we have built in, you're looking at the fund balance decreasing from $25.8 million down to, by 1%. It's going to bring down to 28% of our total unrestricted fund balance.
Thank you.
And that's it. Unless you guys have any questions for me.
Just
Go ahead,
a
Len.
quick question on the additional state aid, the $8 million figure. Is that, so obviously that's going to be spread amongst 31 community colleges, maybe. I mean, we don't know.
Mhm.
But that's an additional state aid that's unrestricted.
Yes, that is correct.
And there may be some restriction. I saw
Yes,
some
there's a
brief
plan that needs
language
to be
in
developed.
the bill
Okay.
that qualifies it somehow, but I didn't say much.
Is that about 4% system-wide in terms of what that figure represents?
I'm not entirely sure
Okay,
without looking at
okay.
the numbers. I would have to get back to you.
Okay. I had a reason for asking that question because there was some activity going on. I was just wondering if that's what they came up with, but we'll talk about it later.
I think it's important to note that we've been operating collectively under the constraint of the state budget not being passed. So this question, for example, could have been even more easily answered a month ago, or 3 weeks ago, had the budget been timely. I'm glad the budget passed in the form that it did. All we've really seen is a Chancellor King's summary of the impact of the budget on SUNY, including community colleges, which we've read, and generally it's positive, which is great.
Right.
But we haven't been elbow deep in that budget, the actual enacted state budget. So some of these questions are a little soft. I would say though that from where we thought we might be 2 months ago, this is better, and that goes for secondary education as well. So generally changes have been positive, so that's good. I would like to thank particularly ARDA, but also Bill Reuter and Dr. Sagai and others here who have been very much front and center of getting all of this pulled together, not only this year, but in prior years, and as we remember under COVID, it was very difficult to do. This was perhaps a more conventional budget. I'm glad that you were able to put it together in the way you were. A couple things that I would tease out of it, then I'd like to ask Ken to give us a wrap up on what he sees. But one thing I would note is while we are using fund balance in this budget, and we have to be responsible and present a balanced budget, last year we did the same thing, and we wound up not using fund balance. In fact, our fund balance increased. And that had to do with a lot of factors: the rental of facility space relating to the Bill's construction, interest earnings, and the like, plus our continuing decisions made at the board level and at the administrative level to right-size the college and so forth. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we will be utilizing fund balance, but we need to be responsible and put that in there and own up to the fact that we still, on paper, have a lack of an operating, sustainable, year-to-year situation. That's being said, we do have the fund balance and we're going to use it. So I would point to that. I'm delighted that we are able to not raise tuition. That was a big discussion. It comes here as a fait accompli, but we've had lots of discussions about that. All of the trustees were invited to the last budget meeting, which Ken ably chaired, and we had a robust discussion of all aspects of the budget. I'll stop there, Ken, and offer you a chance to sum up or pull anything out of Arda's remarks that you think deserve highlighting.
Dr. Sagai and Arda have done a great job, I think, with this budget. Everything looks pretty good to me. I think that we're keeping an eye on the future. The one thing that we're going to have to deal with at some point is that our interest income will go down as interest rates someday go down in the country. We're getting a lot of money from that, and then we have $400,000 or more in rental fees from related to the stadium construction that will disappear at some point. So we'll have a hole developing at some point that we have to be conscious of, but for the moment, we're doing fine. I think it's well managed, put together, and I'm very happy to support it.
Agreed. And of course, we have to keep in mind that if the state encounters financial headwinds, they could revisit the funding formula. You heard Arda say that if they went back to an FTE calculation instead of the floor that we operate under the last several years, it would be an immediate $10 million hit. So while we have a fund balance, it's got a lot of shadows around it, is how I would put it. And we are responsibly operating here in great uncertainty. We're still coming out of the pandemic. We're looking at what we're doing at South. We've got a lot going on. And so I'm glad that we have a little financial buffer even as we move forward. Okay. Any further comments or questions about the budget before I go to the resolutions? If not, in our materials, you saw the resolutions. There are actually 3 of them. One is sort of a general resolution with a lot of whereas clauses that basically says that it addresses the use of fund balance. Our policy says we really shouldn't use fund balance for operations, but we have to, the trustees have the latitude to do that. So we are choosing to do that outside of a policy. But as I mentioned, we didn't have that come to fruition last year, even though we made that move. And we hopefully may again, depending on circumstances. But at this point, to balance our budget, to responsibly submit one, we must go outside our policy. That's the first resolution that I'll call for a motion on. The second one is actually adopting the operating budget, very simple resolution in our materials that I'll sign after the meeting for Gail once we act on it. The figure is $87,770,239. If you think about what's been happening at the college, very dramatic enrollment declines, but that's not just up, it's statewide. We're right in the middle of the pack in terms of what's going on with community colleges statewide. It's not an ECC exclusive problem. But we've gone from being about a $104 million institution to an $87 million institution. And that is not unhealthy given our enrollment declines, but we have to constantly deal with that. Last but not least, we have the tuition and fee schedule that must be adopted by the board. You heard about reductions in fees. We're trying to remove or reduce barriers to the financial, trying to reduce or remove financial barriers to our students. And we've kept tuition flat and we've actually reduced fees. So let's market that. And those are the 3 resolutions. So I'll take them one at a time because of their formal nature. If I could have please a motion first to adopt as presented, subject to just a few typos that I'm going to give to Gail, non-substantive. I would like to pass the one involving the use of fund balance and the overall situation. Got that, Mel? I think I heard a motion there. Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor of the first of the 3 budget resolutions?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is passed. The second resolution is the one presenting our actual operating budget and the amount as stated of $87,770,239 as presented. Motion to approve our budget.
So moved.
Thank you, Ken.
Second.
Len. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All including our virtual attendees, were in favor of both of those resolutions. The third resolution has to do with our tuition and fee schedule as discussed and presented in our materials. And I would like a motion to approve that third and final resolution relating to the budget.
So moved.
Thank you, Ken. Second?
Second.
Len. All in favor of the third resolution involving tuition and fee schedule?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That too is passed as presented. Thank you. A large step for the college. And Arda, thank you again. You've been at the tip of the spear.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Ken, we have anything further on the budget, or you may want to mention just the timetable from where we go from here, and then any other items on your list.
Send it to the executive and the legislature. The executive will take a look at it, hopefully forwarded it in the form that we have to the legislature. Sometime in June, the legislature will approve it, and it'll go to SUNY after that.
Okay, and that makes sense. I don't expect problems. So we passed our maintenance of effort, our operating budget, and our tuition and fee schedule. Those are the three resolutions. And the student activity fee allocation, I don't know if, I think that is actually something that we need to approve. Dr. Sagai?
There hasn't been any.
That was from a previous meeting
Yep.
that we deferred to this
Yes.
one.
Yes,
Yes.
are we taking that up today? There was a question about that.
Yes, and there's no changes to it. It's
Okay.
still the
It's
same.
staying, it's on the
Yep.
committee, it's staying the same.
So we need a motion to approve as presented at this meeting, our allocation of student activity fee. Motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you, Len. Second?
I'll second the
Cam?
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is approved. Thank you. Any opposed? Ken, that's the end of my list for the Budget Committee. Do we have more?
And we're fine.
All right. Curriculum, Student Success, and Diversity. Candace Morrison, we have commencement, our favorite night of the year. And we have an agreement.
Yes, we do. So our committee did not meet in April, but we do have an item in front of us, and Eric, I will hand it over to you to describe the good item we have in front of us.
Great, thank you and good morning everyone. There was a request for approval outside of committee, which is for our commencement event on May 22nd to be held then at Buffalo State University.
Yes, I saw it. It's very interesting to see what the charges all relate to. It adds up to about $18,000, which to me seemed quite reasonable for the scope and scale of that operation over at Buff State on May 22nd. I look forward to that evening. Any questions? If not, let's have a motion, please, to approve the proposed form of contract with Buffalo State University for the commencement situation.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second the motion.
All right, thanks, Ken. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All are voted in favor, Gail. Thank you, and I look forward to that, and we will have a bit more later on graduation. Moving to, I think that's the end of our action items, just for the record, but we're moving on to informational items. Ken, your typical litany there, some of which we've
Yeah,
discussed already.
The foundation donors are just a list of the folks who gave in the past year. The ASC is Susan here? No. Dr. Sagai, you have any comments or Arda about that one?
No, I think
No.
we're good.
Okay.
We've discussed that in the budget. It's
I read the
generally
material.
positive.
That,
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing better than budget right now.
Yes.
The fourth, fifth, and sixth are the budget to actual and the labor management. Anything out of the ordinary? Or?
No, sir, unless you guys have any questions.
We're moving along fine with the budget as adopted. As the seventh and eighth items relate to Paul's work and the facilities rentals. Most, it seems to me, about 8,000 or so last month. Supply report, I didn't see anything that stood out. Is anything to be concerned about? So we can move on that. We did, as number 9 is actually dormant because the state legislature's already adopted the budget for the year, so we'll see what that $8 million turns out to be. And then finally, our minutes for our last committee meeting, so.
All accepted as on an informational basis. Thanks, Ken. Curriculum, Student Success, and Diversity Chair Candace Morrison.
We did not have a meeting in April, so I have nothing to report at this time.
All right. Marketing, Chair Len Lenahan.
We also didn't have a meeting. We are on the verge of hiring a marketing VP. We're down to next
Mhm.
3 people. So hopefully soon we'll have something to announce there, and looking forward to that.
Good. Policy and Governance, Chair Melody Baker. Last month, we tabled the academic forgiveness policy, and I was curious about the status of that. We don't necessarily have to bring it forward, but I would like just an update for the group.
Sure, I could take that on. The group met, the Academic Standing Committee met, and really is addressing some of the questions that were brought up here and making sure that that policy also doesn't impact another policy, and if it does, we are looking to change that. So hopefully we should have some of that work done soon to be able to bring it to the committee.
So no action at this time by
No.
the board.
No.
All right. Candace, anything else? Or Mel, sorry, pardon me. Add that committee.
No, thank you for that update, Dr. Sagai.
So
Our chair, Carrie Phillips of Strategic Planning, is not here, but I believe that committee met.
we didn't
No,
meet.
okay.
We didn't-
Maybe I saw one on my calendar
no
coming up.
update on that.
Talent, Diversity, Equity, and Belonging, Chair Amanda Lau.
I don't have a report for today, but we are working on scheduling our May meeting, after which we will have more information for the group.
All right. And Carrie Phillips, our Technology Chair, is not here today to make a report from that committee, but Dr. Sagai can cover any technology
No.
issues on her report. As for my report as chair, our last Board of Trustees meeting was March 28th. Since then, as you know, I've had my weekly lengthy discussions with Dr. Sagai, and often more frequently. On April 1st, Dr. Sagai and I met with the county executive and his chief of staff on the 16th floor of the Rath Building and had our usual productive meeting on county college relationships and updating him on what exactly is going on. April 8th, the eclipse. I was glad to see everyone have a chance to mostly see the eclipse, and the college to observe the eclipse and keep our students safe, Mark, without having to have too many people moving about on the day of the eclipse, which was quite spectacular. On April 9th, Dr. Sagai and I met with Comptroller Hardwick and Deputy Comptroller Callan from Erie County. And the purpose of that was to bring them up to speed, as we had with the Majority Caucus and the Minority Caucus in the legislature, on the state of our discussions on what we are doing at South Campus. And the discussion broadened from that point to other topics that were of interest to the comptroller and his staff, and was very, very healthy and good discussion. We had previously met with them on the ERP situation 6 months ago, and we have a sort of continuing dialogue with the comptroller's office that we value. On April 9th, there was also a Senate meeting. I saw Colleen come in, so we'll hear from her on that, but I attended that meeting virtually. April 11th, we had a good meeting, as I mentioned, with Ken leading the Budget, Audit, and Facilities Committee to go over the budget. And as those meetings go, that was one of the more substantive of the year, because we really were thinking about the entire college's financial situation so that we could bring it to the board and recommend that budget be approved. April 16th, a terrific event. Really want to congratulate Stephen Tucker, the CEO of Northland, who staged an amazing event over at Northland for the entire community. The mayor was there, everybody was there, people from the governor's office. 5th year anniversary of Northland Workforce Training Development Center, and they really hit it out of the park. That was quite a day to be there, and everybody was there, and Stephen did a terrific job presenting the state of Northland, the history of Northland, and the 5-year strategic plan outlook for Northland. Just great. Dr. Sagai may speak about that as well. I was in Albany at a professional conference last week, and I had the opportunity to listen to Comptroller DiNapoli speak about the state budget, which had not yet been adopted at that point. He gave a nice overview. At one point, he talked about the pension system being fully funded in New York and how that is different from other states which have these vast pension obligations and modestly fund them or don't fund them, to full capacity. And he said, that's not really the way in New York. A lot of us know this, but it bears repeating. Our pension system is very strong. It puts somewhat of a burden on local employers, government, public sector employers, but that pension does not fall out of balance very often. It takes a real significant event. And he went on and talked to, I probably listened to him for an hour, and I was carefully listening to what he would say about education and the budget. And it kind of all came true when we saw the actual budget. There was a Joan Bozer event on April 18th, so I'm going to make sure we go back to that. I'm just going to say how grateful I am to Len in particular for spearheading this with Ken. The two of you are old friends of Joan, and that was interesting, but not the real reason we were doing this. She had such a contribution to our college. I'd like to just congratulate everyone involved with that, and we'll hear more about that outside of my report. I'll go to that, I think, next, Len, to ask you to talk about that. The final New York State budget we've talked about. We don't have a complete handle on it, but we have a pretty good handle, and that's been discussed. State of the County address. Went to that yesterday. County Executive Poloncarz hit a real home run, I think, in terms of the way he presented the situation of Erie County. Everyone was there at the AKG Art Gallery, which was a terrific location, and it was a very uplifting thing to see how many initiatives are happening around the county, and some of that gets discussed when we do meet on the 16th floor. So glad to have been there on behalf of the college yesterday. And then my last item is May 22nd, commencement, going back to Dr. Sagai's theme of finish strong, just a message to our students, our faculty members and staff. Let's help everyone, or as many as possible, get across that stage and shake hands that night. Such an important thing. So I'll close there and just go right back to Len and Ken to talk about the Joan Bozer event on April 18th.
Well, I think the best way to explain it is it was a complete home run on behalf of the entire college community. It was really truly a night to remember. Everything came together. As we mentioned, the night of the event, the school's culinary, the students and the staff just did an outstanding job. The IT, Bob, his people were outstanding. We literally had a message coming in from the governor like a half hour before the program began, and Bob nailed that. The maintenance staff, Richie Rojak's crew, just did a fabulous job. Even escorting Jackie Walker, who was our MC, who did great. She was met at the parking lot in the back, came in, she was escorted out. It was just terrific. Adi, and your leadership was just crucial to making this a great night. I think the highlight of the night was when we actually unveiled the atrium plaque, whatever. Joan's entire family, including grandchildren and great-grandchildren, were up there. And I thought Alan gave a beautiful talk. And you could just feel Joan's spirit in that room. A lot of her friends from the League of Women Voters, all her environmental groups. Joan was involved in a plethora of initiatives just all over the community all the time. It was great to see some of those people back. I am just very appreciative of first, we took that action, we got that done, and I think everybody was there. Kathy, Arda, Colleen, as I look around the room, just everybody was there. Just a great night. The governor's remarks were, even though, anything dealing with the governor during budget week is going to be frantic.
Yes.
But her comments were just so personal and so on point that it wasn't a rushed through thing. It was, the message was delivered beautifully. And like I said, Jackie Walker as MC did a great job. I'm just very appreciative to everyone. Joan, she was watching. She was very, very, very thrilled just to see the joy in her kids and her grandkids and little great-grandchildren were stumbling up on the stage. They were all there when the unveiling took place. And so I'm also appreciative of this Board of Trustees who contributed to not only the event, but made it possible for students who we needed to invite. Gratis made that happen, and the board's support throughout the whole thing. So it just could not be more grateful and happier for just a night that we're all going to remember.
And through the foundation, there'll be a scholarship established with
Yes.
some of the proceeds of the event. Ken, just want to ask your thoughts, if any?
I really don't have anything to add to it, except that I was just a bit player in this because I wanted to see it move,
Right.
and it was a long time coming. 40 years is a long time to wait. But the credit on this board goes to Len for all of his hard work with the committee, with the family, and just moving it all along. And much thanks, Len, for pulling this all together.
And thanks to all. Cameron, our student trustee, was there. Did you, I may have missed you, recognized you. Were you gone? You stayed for the whole thing?
I stayed after the speech, but the only thing I missed, I guess I left right before the unveiling.
Okay.
So
I apologize for
stayed.
not getting
No, it's
you some recognition.
No, it's
Right.
I was a pleasure to be there for Joan Bosch. Like I
Right.
said, I don't know her personally, but I know I'm here at city campus
Right.
because of her, so I can only thank her.
Right. And
So.
Candace was there as well. And
Yeah.
thank you, Candace. And so just a great night for the school. I think that old culture, that old spirit that we've been looking for came out in droves that night. And, it was just a great night. And I think, a lot of people, you have to keep in mind, have not seen the atrium. A lot of people in the community have heard about it and so forth, but don't make it down there. And they were just blown away by just the beauty of the building and just the work that went into making that happen. So
I'd like to compliment some of the press coverage too. It was a beautiful article by Mr. First, I think. First,
absolutely.
and the TV and so forth. So Adam, anything to add from your
Again,
seat?
just to echo Len's, it was an honor to do this. The family was incredible, as so was the great-grandchildren. Our students also did some of the work, did some of the research, and so we had it all displayed. So our students were involved. Our faculty were also involved in helping to create some of that, and were there, and the college community came out. So it was really a win-win situation for us. We also had our public official, the county exec was there. Crystal People also sent a letter. And April Bassett was there as well. So it was a very good night.
Thanks to all who attended and everyone who worked hard to make that special. It was great.
One last comment is I had a friend who is in a wheelchair. He lost a leg last year, and he was met out in the back, in the ramp in the back by Rich Rojak, personally taken up right into his seat at the program. When the night was over, Rich took him back down, and it's a little bit, you got to go down these ramps, and it's a little complicated. Matter of fact, I was going to do it, and Norm goes, "No thanks." But I want Rich. So, but even that, just every detail was just in mind.
Oh, that's great. Great story. All right, well done. Cameron Lloyd, our student trustee report.
Well, we know the school year is coming to an end for students. So, most students are finishing their exams, but I do have a couple things to report. One of the biggest things I actually would like to report is that we kind of worked diligently since last semester to purchase upgrades for the city atrium. So at the Joan Bozer event, we kind of had renderings of what the atrium would look like post-fall 2024. Actually have another meeting coming up to meet with the guy to do a virtual walkthrough to actually see what the atrium will look like. So there'll be a new landscape at City within the end of this year. So hopefully everybody can get a chance to look at it and see that the atrium is a very beautiful space, and it deserves that catering. So I'm glad to work with Crystal and Perry and Colleen and everyone to get that taken care of. Also know South is having a Cinco de Mayo event coming up. And also we sponsored students as well to go to the Joan Bozer event. As well for the Eclipse, we paid for students to have the glasses, we bought shirts. It was such a overabundance of students, like I think we ended up running out, we didn't actually have enough.
Great.
And then also Colleen also had brought up to our attention that this weekend we have some campaigning with Senator Tim Kennedy because election is coming up. So we can also go out and voice our support for him. And also, last, we have a end of the year spring fling coming up for all 3 campuses, May 10th. It's still a TBD date, but that is the date, but we're just making sure everything is final. But May 10th is the date for that. So, but,
May 17th?
it's May 17th? Oh, okay, so it's May 17th. Okay, but other than that, I mean, students finishing off the year strong, so.
And you had an item that you wanted to
Oh,
mention.
yes. Also, so this has been out for a little bit, but there is an award ceremony coming up for the New York Community College Trustee Board. It's an award reception and a banquet ceremony. So there's a little over like 8 awards. I don't know, Gail, do you still have the email? Could you email it to the trustees so they could kind of overview all the awards? But it's in October, so a little ways away. And then the award deadline submission is June 19th. So if any trustees are interested, you have time until October. And it's the 70th anniversary, so it is a very special one for them. So I would appreciate if you guys could try to attend. It'll be in Saratoga Springs. I'm not too sure. It's a couple hours away, but I'd say it would be worth the trip. So
Thanks for bringing that up, and Gail's
yep, she will
circulating that.
email the information.
Okay.
Thank you, Gail.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you.
Next is our College Senate report from Chair Colleen Quinn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we had our College Senate meeting in April, and it was actually a relatively quick. We didn't have a whole bunch of business that we had to talk about, but we were talking more about different things that we need to do to finish up the semester, and registration and all those different efforts to get our students set for the fall. So South Campus had registration days yesterday and on Tuesday. We had it catered so our students had an opportunity to get hot food because the food options are different at South versus the other campuses. So we had a great turnout. We had more kids on Tuesday than we did yesterday, but we got about at least 60 kids were there. We got about 50 of them registered for the fall and summer classes. And then also we're working with students still to complete schedules over the next week or so that had popped in with questions and things like that. So I was talking with Erickson earlier, and he ran the numbers after our event yesterday, and he said that that just really helped our numbers for the fall for retention. And that's really the big thing that we tried to get out in that April meeting is, the best way to retain our students is to make sure they finish the semester with a schedule so that then they can come back. One student of mine in particular, he's like, well, I think I'm gonna transfer. I said, all right, well, have you applied? No. You haven't done anything yet? No. I'm like, well, let's get a schedule, because what if you don't? Let's make sure, because one of the things that we're trying to not have happen is when students come in at the beginning of September, there's not a lot of options left as far as late registration. So, no, let's get you covered now, and then if you end up registering, then we can, adjust. And he's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'm like, yeah, come on, but we also worked with a lot of students with graduation, so are you graduating? We've actually caught about 5 students that are eligible to graduate that didn't realize it, so we got their applications in for graduation yesterday, and also reinforced that there's a 2-step process. Students get a survey after they apply, so they have to complete the survey in order to be ready for graduation. So lots of good events with that. And we had our open house the week before, and it was just another great night of turnout with our faculty and future students and then current students. We are helping Dan Frontero's efforts for graduation. We have a lot of faculty volunteering to carry down signs, to be part of festivities before graduation with our students. And so that is coming up, and one of the other things that we talked about here earlier with the policies, myself and Kathy Klesso and Adrian and Amy Yoder and other members of the Academic Standards Committee met last week to kind of get our ducks in a row to make sure the policy is going to be ready to go. We're meeting again next week to hopefully kind of finalize some of that stuff. We won't have it done in time for the May College Senate meeting, but hopefully we'll have it done. If there's any changes, it'll have to come back to Senate for a vote. So hopefully we'll have that situated by June to send it back up through the board. The FCCC, so Faculty Council of Community Colleges plenary, was right after the Senate meeting. It was on April 12th. I went, so did Jackie Bossman, who is our FCCC delegate. It was a great day. We heard from Dr. Merrill Tisch was there virtually, but Johanna Duncan-Pontier was there, which is our Vice Chancellor of Community Colleges, and then the Chancellor King was there as well. So we got to hear all sorts of great things that are happening SUNY-wide, but also more specifically for community colleges within SUNY. And, you know, as I'm sure many people in here have already met with Dr. King, but he is a big champion of community colleges and some of the efforts. So we were talking about his 4 pillars and how that can come across to all of the community colleges. So we'll have a couple of resolutions that come out, that came out of that plenary that will be up for discussion at the Senate meeting in May, which is May 14th, which is also the last day of the semester and 8 days before graduation.
This is such a busy time of year for faculty. Thank you. We see you. Look forward to thanking you at commencement, along with a whole bunch of successful students.
Absolutely.
And everything you're doing to help with that is really appreciated.
Thank you, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. It's my favorite day, and you know, I tell the students, I'm like, I'm on stage. I'm going to say the names. If you get in my line, you know, you can decide how I'm going to say it. I can say it real regular, or I can announce it like we're at a football stadium. They're like, oh my God. I'm like, or I'll just be nice and just say it normal. It'll be fun. So you know, they're like, well, you're going to be there. I'm like, yeah, we're all there.
Yeah.
You know, come. So it
That
should be a
point on
good time.
scheduling and retention is really an important one.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
And thanks for the policy work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Of course.
All right, thanks, Colleen.
You got it.
Our president's report, Dr. Sagai, I would ask if you could kindly help us get to know James Blackwell as part of that. And then maybe anticipating some old business, which we'll probably pass over quickly, is 2 items that I have listed there that maybe come up in your report are the transportation situation that we talk about, and also the your plans for the State of the College address in the fall.
Sure. James? So James started with us on Monday, Vice President of Administration, and I'll let James tell you a little bit about himself.
All righty. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'll take the liberty of extending who I am and also just talking about why I'm here, because I think that those two kind of go together. So for about 5 years, I worked with the Pullman Cars Administration in varying roles. The last 4 years-ish, I was the Director of Equal Employment Opportunity. One thing about that administration in particular is that you kind of leave your title at the door and you do whatever you're asked to do or whatever the need is of the community. I'll segue that into kind of why I'm here. I grew up in a public service environment. Grew up, born and raised here in Buffalo, New York. Love the community, love Erie County. From a young age, understood the importance and the role that ECC played in the community. And so kind of going forward, an opportunity presented itself for me to continue public service, continue serving Buffalo and Erie County in a different way. And I'm excited to do that. And then lastly, because I know being brief is very important, so I appreciate that as well. But I don't, right? No? But I don't go anywhere, and this is something that was kind of instilled in me at a young age. You don't go anywhere where you don't believe in leadership. And so got to know Dr. Sagai, know the body of work of some of the board members here, have had the privilege of not just meeting the executive staff here over the course of the past week, but really several people throughout the college campus. And kind of all of that combined is why I'm here. I believe in the mission. I believe in the opportunity, certainly the State of the County address. The State of the County is strong, and if we forecast it out, we're seeing growth. We're seeing things develop, and that is also looking 4 or 5 years down the road presents great opportunity for the college to do some things. So that's a little bit about me. That's why I'm here. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, stick and move.
You're welcome.
Can I make one point?
Yes.
Unrelated to his presentation or his job, he's probably one of the best golfers in Western New York. He's, I don't know how many titles you've won, but,
Yeah.
you know.
He's messing up my hustle.
Everybody says, you know, great to see him. When did we go out and play golf? But no, he
Sadly,
really
James,
is
this is public. You're on
Yeah,
TV.
yeah, I know. It's
Hustle's
over
over.
for me.
He is a renowned golfer, and but James, we're happy to have you here.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be
I
here.
would just like to add that James talks about the legacy that he carries from his parents. And Len and I have known his father for more years than we want to talk about. And I also know your mother and the work she's done. She worked in the state health department and other things, and a nurse, a doctor. And we're really happy to have you here. It's a pleasure to meet you today, and I know you're going to do a good job.
I appreciate it.
It's great. Hope you feel welcome.
Thank you.
Oh yeah,
Glad to have you.
absolutely.
That's great.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Dr. Sagai, thanks, James.
Thank you, absolutely. Bob? Some pictures. So just a lot of what Jeff mentioned in terms of the events and places that Jeff and I have attended, but these are some few things I just want to highlight.
Let's be standing over to the
huh?
left at Fredonia.
The Studio. Can you talk about the visit to Fredonia?
Fredonia was an amazing, when we first arrived, we actually got to meet the president of the college, which, I mean, he could have been a meeting, he could have been doing other things, and he chose to meet with students. So that says a lot. And then the visit there were various, it was a career fair, so there were various schooling and programs, jobs, and stuff like that for students to interact with, hopefully, a future career opportunity. So it was a really great trip. I think we should have more.
And that's one of the opportunity why we collaborated with Fredonia, the president of Fredonia, to really start collaborating and having articulation agreement with their programs and our programs so that our students have an opportunity to go to continue their education beyond ECC. So it was a great event that Colleen and the students went. Open house, I know Colleen Quinn talked a little bit about that. This happened all last week. We had a great turnout of students, new students coming and visiting both the three campuses. We're very active in that. As you know, registration is going on. The key constantly we're emphasizing and sending communication to the college community is that we want to register our continued students before they leave the semester. It is key that we do that. So we are doing that every week, notifying the college community of percentage of students who have registered, particularly continued students, but certainly we are ensuring that we register our new students as well. And then our students had the opportunity to go and get the Chancellor Award. Colleen and others went with the Chancellor, and the other colleges were at Albany to do the Chancellor Award. And then EOP Award as well was happening during our event, the 18th. That's also one of our students who received an EOP Award with the Chancellor and other community colleges. FAFSA, as you know, we've been talking a lot. The whole nation is talking about FAFSA completion. The mayor, as well as Eunice, Trustee Eunice, as well as superintendents of Buffalo, hosted a FAFSA completion event evening at East High School, and this is where we were, and our staff were representative to really help our students to fill FAFSA for our college. And we are hosting a different workshop here as well under ARDA and with Eric to really support our students in doing FAFSA. But the other thing I want to emphasize about this is that this is also one of the things that we're working on, a model of financial literacy to make sure that our students have a comprehensive understanding on how to finance their education. So FAFSA clearly is one of the components, but we have scholarship opportunities and other opportunities that we want to make sure that our students are able to use all the resources that they have to make sure that they're financially independent and be able to afford education. I had the pleasure of being invited to present Leadership Buffalo as to my journey to the presidency. And so I had a great time speaking about my experience, both in terms of personal journey as well as the professional journey that I had being a college president. And then another exciting event that I attended with the Governor Hochul. She had hosted Women in Higher Ed. These were all presidents at SUNY at the New York State. So we were there. There were 30 of us from private, public, higher ed institute. We had a wonderful dinner with the governor. So I was really honored to be part of wonderful women who are making extraordinary change in our society, particularly in New York State. So that was a wonderful event. And then we talked about the honoring of Joan Bozer Atrium, as Len and I spoke a little bit about how wonderful it was. We had great representation and highlight our campus, but highlight our students and the fact that our students are doing wonderful things, and culinary was an example of that. Community service, you saw that Crystal spoke about the community service that we do. One of the things I want to point out, the scholarship that was developed on behalf of Joan Bozer is really about service. Because she believed in service, the family and us really collaborated to create a criteria that would really identify students who are participating in service, either coming into the college or after, being at the college, that they would be able to get the scholarship. So very excited about the scholarship. Just a couple of things I want to the county address. I was there among other people representing the college. I also had an opportunity to meet with the interim president, Dr. Duran from Buff State, and Superintendent Dr. Tanja Williams, to talk about how we could do better with our middle college and how we could collaborate better in terms of our students coming from the high school to SUNY Erie and then transferring to Buff State. We have our nursing ceremony that is, I think you have a copy of it, that is being hosted here at North on May 3rd. So we have a lot of event that Gail will be forwarding to the trustees. We have a celebration that's coming, the Sport Award celebration that's coming soon too. So we have a lot. May is very busy.
Are you involved in this?
Not yet, but May is
not yet.
Not yet, right?
I got to do some things first before, but I did get accepted into a nursing program. But we'll work on it. We'll work on it.
So there's a lot of wonderful event that's happening in May, honoring different parts of the college and different things. But as I know Jeff and others have mentioned, the best time is graduation, and hope to see everyone there. And so we're looking forward to our graduation on May.
Dr. Sky, you have been extremely engaged community-wide and in Albany. Again, our weekly talks, I follow your comings and goings. I just wanted to share with everybody that I happened to be sitting with some senior members of the governor's staff yesterday at the event, and they went out of their way to say how impressed they were with the job you're doing. You're being noticed in Albany as being a fine representative of our college and what's going on at our college. So it was a very, very positive conversation. I'll leave it at that, but had you been a fly on the wall, you would have been very pleased.
I appreciate that. I'm making friends with everybody at the hotel too, so it's exciting to be there, right?
We ran into each other there.
Yes, indeed, so it's working out, yes, thank you.
All right. Now, as far as old business, the only two things I had were the ones I mentioned, which were the transportation and the state of the college, which I know is on your mind.
So the transportation, Colleen and I will set up a time to meet with the transportation entity to really talk about how they support the college and what they could do better. We have a survey that we should be getting shortly about the transportation experience of our students, but we have enough information to really meet with the leadership of the transportation company that we work with to see how we could better serve our students and how they can better serve us.
I think that's helpful. I mean, we're keeping this on the agenda just to keep moving it, to signal that the trustees care about this, and that we are entering some summer months now, but college is always happening, and this is something the students always mention to us. And then your state of the college?
Absolutely. So the state of the college, we're working on scheduling, it's a little bit tough in May, but scheduling a community session where we will have the community be part of that discussion so that I could really have a conversation. But we did finish the college community, both our students and faculty and staff, so we're just going to do that. And the goal is to really work on this for the fall semester.
Right, and I was probably taking notes yesterday with the county executive. On May 1st, the mayor gives his
Yep.
state of the city. These are, get right in with that.
We
There's
have a
lot-
story to tell,
There's a
so
lot
we
to
will-
talk about
yes.
here, it really is. Okay. We already had our executive session, that was reported. Any other old business before we move on? Or new business that hasn't been discussed? Hearing none, we will note that between now and our next meeting, we have commencement. I'm sure all of us will be there and very excited at Buff State University. And then our next trustees meeting is May 30th here at North Campus. Incidentally, I've spoken to Dr. Sagai about this. We're looking at, and we're not yet firmed up, but moving the locations of the meetings to various locales within our college community, as we once did, as opposed to just being in this room. Not yet firmed up, more to come on that. It won't happen until the fall. No presentations or informational sessions, so any further comments before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Cam?
I hopefully, actually, too, May 30th, I am reporting back to you guys as two-term trustee, hopefully, because I do have to, so we'll see. So I'll see you guys in May.
Very good, and hopefully we'll have two new ones for you. When I sat next to the governor's folks, I didn't waste the opportunity to talk about the two vacancies we have. So more on that to come as well.
Okay.
No further business appearing. I will ask for a motion to adjourn our trustees meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. Ken. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your attention. We are adjourned.
Do you bring that around with you?
It just is here.